Hey, beautiful ladies, to today's welcome. Actually, yeah, today's welcome. Welcome to today's love bump. Oh my goodness, I'm fully out of my normal habitat because normally boss is standing next to me, and now today's only myself. Hi, Birgit. Happy to have you here because today's topic was one that we both felt is one that I have to talk about because it's very, very dear to my heart. It's something that is has been moving my world in the last past weeks very massively. Actually, it has been moving my world in the last past years very massively. But since I have been reading this book, I have been talking about it. I wanted to make a second part of this Are You a Prisoner of Your Past videos, and I really want to talk about this book by Dr. Valerie Reins today and what I've learned from it, and also like why it is so incredibly important to read that book. And I said it without being paid for it because she's really that good, but also because it's just time, because when we as women want to go to the next step, we have to learn what's standing in this book. Hi Willy, so happy to see you. Hi Birgit. Hi. So like what the book is called, the Patriarchy Stress Disorder. So it's written for women, but it's of course also influencing men. I mean, like patriarchy, we all know it, or I think we all have been already talking about it in the last Love Bump. It hasn't been good for women nor for men, because men also have suffered under the patriarchy and the rules that we set up, the society that patriarchy has formed. But today, and especially also this book, but also I today want to talk about what the impact it had on females. So by the way, Willy or Birgit, if you have read the book, let me know. Maybe Willy, because I know that you've also heard from it, because we used to have the same business coach, mentor. So I know that you've also heard about the book. And I'm very curious if you have read it and what kind of impact it had on you. So the Patriarchy Stress Disorder is actually, what is it? It's a trauma. It's a trauma that we women have within us, whether we know it or not, and whether we are having big symptoms or small symptoms. But actually, I think almost every woman when I'm looking back, knowing about this now, looking back, that I have been working with, I see that we all suffer in some kind of ways, meaning that we have like some kind of an adjusted behavior in order to this trauma, because this is what trauma does. It actually changes our behavior. It changes the natural way we would behave, the natural way we would act. But when we are having experienced a trauma, the people who have actually experienced trauma in this life know what I'm talking about. When you're experiencing a trauma, this experience is changing how you're behaving. Maybe you're all of a sudden are feeling fearful around certain things, or you don't feel safe within yourself, or stuff triggers you and you just don't behave the way how you would behave normally, or you have behaved before that trauma has happened in your life. And then the very interesting thing, and this is nothing new to me emotionally, but now I have something to hold on to explain it to women, because this is what I always said, like these traumas go through generations. So the thing is, even though you did not have, like you haven't experienced this trauma in this lifetime or in this life, it can be that, for example, your great-grandmother or your great-great-great-grandmother has experienced it, and it actually just transmits genetically over to you. So that means if, for example, your great-great-grandmother has been burned at the stake for speaking her truth, this will influence you today, how you are feeling about telling your truth, because this fear is deeply engraved within all our DNA. It's literally in our DNA. And there's an amazing example that Dr. Valerie Reins also talks about. For example, this woman who was super successful, like she had a beautiful relationship, which was super happy in what she was doing, and she had like this epic, I think she was even having her own business, but she had this strange fear of going on trains. And she could not explain that to herself, because she was like freaking out. It really kept her from going to places by train. And when she started working with Dr. Valerie Reins, and then they figured out like that her grandparents, this woman's grandparents, were like victims in the Holocaust. And guess what? Where these people have been brought to by train. And even though her grandparents have never ever talked about that with her, she still had that within her DNA. And they also tested it on actually animals, not that I'm for animal testing in any way, but the results are that like trauma is inheritable. So you can inherit a trauma from your parents and your grandparents. And of course, this goes on over and over on, like this goes through the whole ancestral line. And when we have experienced a trauma and we have adapted our behavior, or we're not behaving the way we would behave normally, this is what Dr. Valerie Reins calls the prison guards. These prison guards, their job is it to prevent us from like getting re-traumatized in some way. Their job is to keep us safe. So whenever we are like leaving the boundaries of what we, this prison guard, think is safe for us, they're acting up like crazy. And they like, there are these voices in our heads that keep us telling to shut down or to keep small, or that we just have this constant feeling of we cannot truly be happy and fulfilled. Like maybe you know that this feeling of there's always this kind of a glass ceiling and you cannot push through, no matter how hard you're trying, no matter how many therapies you're doing, or like, you know, like talking about it. And there's just this boundary that you cannot push through. And these prison guards that keep you in this safe space. And like in order to break out, which she also calls, I think she calls it prison break or something like that. Like in order for you to actually live the life that you're supposed to live or that you want to live, you have to actually take these prison guards by the hand, because it doesn't work if you're just pushing through them or like throwing yourself in ice cold water. This is not how it works, because they will just scream louder and bigger and everything will just, your whole system will collapse and you kind of get re-traumatized again. So what you have to do is actually taking these prison guards by the hands. This is how I would call it. And the first crucial step in this whole system is like to really acknowledge that you have a trauma and that there is like something in your system that you don't have a control over, and that is not your fault. Because who knows that? I mean, raise your hands, ladies. Like we all know that something is happening in our lives and we immediately feel guilty about it. We feel like, oh my goodness, something's wrong with me. I have an issue. We try to like woman up to it, like push it away, like think, oh, it's not such a big deal. We're trying to some kind of just, you know, like being bigger than the problem in order not to feel guilty. And if we have to admit that actually something is out of how we actually think it should be, then we feel guilty or shame about it. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. This is the first thing that you have to understand. It's not your freaking fault. This is something that patriarchy has taught us, because we were there to serve the man. We were there to serve the masculine. And it was the only thing that, like, we were there to give birth to babies and to like look for the families. This was our job, literally. And our feelings, our emotions, our own dreams, they just didn't count. They just did not count in this system. And still we were working against that system, right? We're building now together a new one. But first we have to understand that something is wrong in the system and not within you. So this is the first step that is so crucial to understand. And I was just thinking, maybe I should also give you some more details before I go on about how the patriarchy stress disorder can manifest in your life, especially in your love life. Because I love that she also talks about relationships, especially in the end of the book, and how it is influencing our relationships. And for example, it can, when you're a woman, when you're single, and you keep attracting unavailable men, this can have to do a lot with the patriarchy stress disorder. Or if you, for example, are in a relationship, but your sex life is just not very satisfying and you don't feel fulfilled in this area, this can have to do a lot with the patriarchy stress disorder. Or if you, I don't know, like you always, when you're in a relationship, you fully lose yourself and you totally become the housemaid and want to read every wish from your husband's lips. If he asks you to do this or not, then you probably also are suffering under the PSD. Is it PSD? PSD, yes, patriarchy stress disorder. So like this is how we can see, okay, there's something in our system that is just some kind of sabotaging us, because we know what we want, But this subconsciousness is just having its own ways. These prison guards are subconscious. If you would know about them, of course, and now you know about them, you can make them conscious. Things can be handled much differently. But mostly we don't know them. So like, it's like if you're imagining being a ship, you're like, the captain would be your mind saying, I want to go to Honolulu. But if your subconscious, which would be the rowing crew, knows you're heading to Alaska or something, then these rowers will just row to Alaska. You first have to, like, some kind of conscious thoughts, what you will have, the captain has to some kind of transmit this information to the subconscious, and have to like really make sure that his crew understands that this is what he wants and that this is important, so that you can actually go to Honolulu and not to Alaska. Does this make any sense? I hope it does. So like, again, how can we resolve this trauma, or how can we work on these prison guards that actually keep us from reliving that trauma that we maybe not have even, like, that didn't even occur to us, but maybe to our ancestors. So first step, as I said, acknowledging that there is a trauma, and that it's not your freaking fault. It's not your fault. It's not about guilt or shame or feeling embarrassed. No, this is within all us women in some kind of way. So step one. Step two is all about calming down this nervous system, calming down these prison guards, because these prison guards are not bad. They just want to keep you safe, right? So it's crucial to really understand that your system is in flight or fight mode. Like the lizard brain is active, so the freezing, fight or flight mode is active in these moments. And what you have to do is really calming down in sense of connecting with yourself again. And how are you doing that? By feeling your feelings and by really feeling your body. Because our whole life, really our whole life in nowadays society is happening in our heads. We're constantly thinking, like we're on the phone, we're on the computer. It's all about mind, all about the mind, all about the mind. And we women, especially, it's so crucial to reconnect with our bodies, to really feel our bodies, to really like being present in our bodies, feeling how is it sitting on a chair? How am I like really holding my feet on the ground? What am I smelling? What am I seeing? What, like, how things are being, like the touch, how does it feel on my skin? How does this fabric feel on my skin? Like gravity, all these things, really reconnecting with your body. And you can do this in all kind of ways. There are different ways you can do that, for example, through yoga or meditation, or also like really being physically active. But it's so crucial to get out of the mind in connecting like your body with yourself, like being aware of your body, because with that you can actually calm your nervous system down. You can calm down this whole and there's also in the book, Dr. Valerie also explains the 3-part breathing, a breathing work, how you can also calm down yourself when you're in this total overwhelmed, anxious place. So this is the step number 2, like really really calming down this nervous system, so that you also have access to other parts of your brain. Because if you're still in this fight and flight brain, you don't have access to all these neocortex and all these creative thinking brain like parts in your head. So this is why this is so important. The 3rd part is all about expressing yourself, expressing your feelings. Because we have unlearned how to express our feelings. And I've talked about it, or we've talked about it more than once. Emotions are like energy in motion. And if we don't feel these freaking feelings, it's just going to backfire massively. And like, of course, in patriarchy, feeling your feelings is not very allowed. It's not very wanted, because it's all in the head. It's all about structure. It's all about, like these very masculine things. And feeling your feelings is chaos, right? It's actually chaos, like just letting things flow, letting things be how they are without having to control them. And when I say feel your feelings and express these feelings, I don't tell you to yell at your boss and telling him he's an ass. Or, I don't know, smashing all your beautiful things in your what's the word? Where the bookshelf is, like, I don't know, their wedding picture, or I don't know. This is not what I'm talking about. It's about channeling these feelings. For example, maybe you want to listen to some music. Maybe you want to scream when you're angry in your pillow or in the car, or you want to go chop some wood, or I don't know, like just dance it all out. Or like screaming is very effectively, I have found out. And to be honest, because some of you might know I'm originally an actress, so like it was therapy. Acting was therapy for me, pure therapy, to really let out my anger, to slip into characters and to be really angry, because I was raised a good girl, you know. I was always the good girl. So really getting in contact with my anger was so healing. And when I left acting school, I felt like, oh my goodness, where I'm going to, you know, like really express all this anger that I still have within me. And I had to find new ways, and like punching my mattress or screaming into my pillow, like was a very good way to do so for me. Or maybe when you have sadness within you, to really, like, you know, listen to music that makes you cry. Just give yourself the space to mourn, because like grief is such a big part that we also keep pushing away. And it's such a great part, and it can bring so much freedom when we allow it to move through us and to just like live through it. So like expression of your feelings, a very, very big part. May also be through art, through, I don't know, like just figure out how can you express your feelings and start to live, because to feel is to live. Feeling is living. And if we cut ourselves off of our feelings, we stop living. We're just cutting literally this life energy. So that's the third step. And the fourth step is like one that so many women struggle with, is about pleasure. Like pleasure, real pleasure. Hey babe, oh my goodness, you're joining my talk when I'm talking about pleasure. It's perfect timing. So like so many women actually struggle so very much to even know what's pleasurable to them and to allow pleasure into their life. Like, I mean, let's think back a bit, you know, patriarchy, where it all comes from. The female pleasure was not really of interest, not really. And the women who really enjoyed themselves or even lived out their sexualities, they were either whores or witches, and they got freaking burned or stoned. Like, living your pleasure was like really an unsafe thing for women for a very, very long time. So what these prison guards that I've just talked with you about, of course, they don't want you to experience too much pleasure, because they just think, oh my goodness, otherwise she's getting killed again or hurt again or like pushed away again. So the thing is to actually like doing all the three first steps to actually calm these prison guards down, and then to really start following your pleasure. And with pleasure, I don't mean that you go to, I don't know, getting your nails done or getting a massage and then constantly thinking about all the shopping you still have to do, or what you have to tell your kids, or what you still have to get back to your clients, because it's what we do, right? We all have all these to-do things in our head. We're constantly in our head. I talked about it before. So it's crucial to just really step out of these head chatter into our bodies and just really like experience the moment. Like, can you receive the moment right now when you're watching this? How are you feeling? When you're watching out, how is the sun? How is the sky? How's the air that you're breathing? Like really receiving that you're having a roof over your head, that you have food in your fridge, that you have all these beautiful things around you. Like really being present. When we really can savor the moment, when we can enjoy things and make them even more pleasurable. Like, for example, I'm having here a blanket, like actually it's my cardigan that I put over my knees, because I think it's kind of chilly in here. And like wearing clothes that you feel great in, or maybe it's just like you can always like make these little shifts. How can you make this moment even more pleasurable? And we women normally don't think like that. We think practically, like get the shit done, right? Like very male approach to all the things we do. We just go and do like the groceries and go back, and we don't even see things on the way to the grocery store. We don't even smell things in the grocery store. We don't see the colors of the fruit. We don't receive the beauty that we can see. We just move through it. And when we can slow down, when we can really like take these moments in, like people also like that, you know, you can actually also how do you say that, what's the word, contagious. It's contagious, because also Dr. Valerie Reins writes how she, for example, she went into this restaurant and then she was like, oh my goodness, I would like to sit by the lake, actually not at the table that she got. And she got the place at the lake, and then she asked the waiter if he could bring her a blanket because she was a bit chilly, so he did that. And then she didn't just order a wine, she asked for some, if she could try out some wine. But she was really enjoying herself. But at one point she was like, oh my goodness, he thinks I'm such a, you know, such a greedy bitch, and what does he think? And she decided not to go down that rabbit hole and just stay present and just enjoy this moment and sip her beautiful wine, and like really taking in the beautiful landscape and the lake and everything in the air. And at one point she was looking around, and she just saw that she was actually the only one really receiving that place, that beautiful place, because everybody else was caught up in some discussions, or were like in this worry mind, or in this prison guard mind. And believe it or not, like this waiter, when she asked, when she paid her bill, he said it was a great pleasure serving you. And she could see that he was telling the truth, because he saw that she was enjoying herself. And this is like magnetic. Also for you single ladies out there, this is magnetic. If you're enjoying yourself, sorry, I forgot to put off my phone. If you're enjoying yourself, this is magnetic. This is something that also attracts people to you, because they want the same that you have. And it all has to do with how much are you allowing yourself to enjoy things, to be present, to like allow pleasure into your life. So this is, I really think it's such an incredibly important topic, that we get aware of, that we have this trauma that keeps us from living our life the way we want to, because we're somehow stuck in these ideas how we have to be, or where the boundaries are, where there actually are no boundaries. It's just all in our heads, and it's all in our it's also in our DNA. But you know, like these prison guards are in our heads, because they want to like keep us safe. But if we allow these prison guards to melt away and to really become safe first within ourselves, and then express ourselves more and more, and then follow our pleasure, so much greatness can come from that. And I can tell you, it will have such a big influence on our relationships. And of course, this has also to do, like, go hand in hand, because don't leave your man behind. It's all about like really talking about these things also with each other, with your partner. Like, it's not about just, you know, many women also have the feeling, oh, I have just to be strong and not talk about it and just get done and over with it. No, this is not the way this stuff is resolved. It's about getting vulnerable. It's about getting vulnerable and real with yourselves and with your partners. And take them along on this journey, because they too have their prison guards. Believe me, they too have them. Maybe different ones, but they have them too. And only if we can stop communicating from one armor to the other, but from like real openness, when we feel safe within ourselves, this is when the magic can happen. And I saw it over and over and over again through the women's work I've done for so many years, but also now with our clients that Boss and I have. When you are feeling safe within ourselves, when you're feeling safe within yourself and safe, trust yourself. This is when the magic happens. This is when you attract your dream partner. This is when your marriage can shift. Okay. Thank you, Birgit. Thank you so much for being here, and have a wonderful day. And I'm going to wrap up that as well. I don't want this to become too long, but if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you're like the steps, I'm also going to post tomorrow here in the group, so that you can follow there along. And Dr. Valerie Reins also has contacted me, because she has seen me ranting and raving about her book. And she said something like, there will be a free online training. I will, of course, let you know about that as soon as it's out. And because she asked if I would share that with you guys, and of course I will, as soon as I know the details. Yeah, so like, it's really an amazing book. And I'm saying this again, I'm not paid for saying this. It's really great. It's nothing, in the end, it's nothing new for me, but it brings it all together. It brings it all together, and it makes so much freaking sense what she writes, because it's just what I've experienced through all these years with working with women and within myself. This is why I'm such a fan of this, and this is why I'm talking constantly about it. So have all a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here, and let me know if there are any questions. And yeah, otherwise we'll see us next week, Monday Love Bomb at 1 o'clock CET. It's not summer yet, unfortunately. And have a great week, ladies. So much love.